Welcome back, friends. I am sure up till now you have started getting a feel of the magic of integrated marketing communication. And if you are going by the advice to notice those words, those magical words, and the associated impact which we have discussed in the preceding sections. So, definitely that you have started noticing that magic happening around you. Let us go deeper and further into that. Let us start building the concept and let us start understanding the methodology associated with that. Let us start actually finding how to generate relevance, which we have talked about in last sessions. Let us start understanding how consistency is maintained in due course of time when we refer to that as an important element of communication. And let us start from the definition, as I said last time. A strategic business process used to plan, develop, execute and evaluate, plan, develop, execute and evaluate coordinated, measurable, persuasive brand communication programs. It is not that complicated. Just try and simplify this and focus on the elements of coordination, measurability and persuasive element which we have referred to. When we talked about persuasion and persuasion, further persuasion when we emphasized upon that. So, persuasive brand communication over time with consumers, customers, prospects, employees, associates and other targeted relevant external and internal audiences. It talks about all the stakeholders. You see, earlier definition which we discussed given by American Association of Advertising Agencies talks about the modes, the vehicles, the methods of reaching to the respondent, public relations or advertising, direct response. And here it is talking of the types of targets. It is emphasizing on other elements as well. It is talking of coordination, which definitely coordination means coordination between different modes and methods to reach to the target. So, that coordination actually will become the reason for us to understand the integration of those methods, and that is why it is called integrated marketing communication actually, because up till now whatever we have been discussing, some part of our understanding about integration element which exists in the name has been missing in our discussions. But that integration is associated with this coordination which is being referred to here, those methods or modes which are being referred to in the earlier definition. And again, the definition given by Professor Philip Kotler on that company carefully integrates and coordinates in many communication channels. So, that is again talking about integration and coordination. So, this coordination perspective, then measurability, because remember that talked about, the earlier definition talked about the impact which communication is going to generate. So, impact must be measured, because otherwise we will not be able to restructure our communication, or we will not be able to change the words, change the perspective associated with that. We will not be able to change the tunes simply, if you want to say that. We would be going on with the same music, same flute, although it works well, but again sometimes we feel that it's not working anymore. So we have to think in terms of consistency and relevance and impact. And then it talks about communication programs over time with consumers, customers, prospects, people who yet are not thinking about your products and services in the organization, or whom you want to think about your organization later on. There is very interesting, there is an interesting advertisement by an automotive manufacturer, I remember, and just surf it on YouTube or Google somewhere, wherein this young kid aspires for a beautiful automotive, and he goes to the showroom and he says that, you know, what this car is all about, and the salesperson in that showroom not only demonstrates the features of that car in front of that child, but actually promises that when you know become eligible to drive, so you may definitely come back and we will be happy to serve you. What that particular advertisement shows, or that communication shows, is that this automotive company is looking for prospects from that age onwards. That message, that beautiful campaign actually brought in aspirations to the young minds for that kind of vehicle basically. So they are trying to connect that generation with their vehicles or their organization from the onset itself. Now it's wonderful actually. You must have seen several messages of, let us say, Disneyland. You must have seen several messages of several organizations who look for including almost everyone on this earth as far as their products and services goes. And that is where they keep on expanding and generating connect with all sorts of people. So, present consumers or customers or specific targets or prospects and employees definitely. People should like to work with your organization, and that is why customers would find it more relevant, or the products more relevant, if you have those kind of people working with you. And it happens all the time with us, wherein several organizations, they aspire to hire from this institution where I am standing, IIT Roorkee, one of the finest institutions in this country, and several organizations, they line up to hire our graduates, and definitely they wish to and try to convince them that their organization is the best place for them to work, because they know not only the fact that these students, they have several options in front of them, but on the other side they want their organizations to be positioned in front of these students as the dream organizations. So that is where employees and associates, for example, people like me, have always, aspired to come here and work as academicians and to be part of this family, and fortunately I am here. So these organizations, they have this, and if even if they are not structurally delivering those messages, but that message is out there through someone's mouth, through some mode, through some narrative, through some story, it is there. That is why I thought that I probably, if I get selected here, so I would be. I have so many PhD scholars with me who aspire to do their doctorate or research from this place. They go through rigorous processes to get admitted, then they work hard to prove themselves. But again, we are talking of the communication generated by such organizations in a structured or an unstructured mode, or by someone who is associated with these kind of organizations, and that is why this definition talks about associates. and other targeted relevant external and internal audiences. Now comes a wider kind of a thing. Remember when we talked about society at large in marketing definition? So, that was referring to serving the society at large, communicating to serve the society at large, and here it is talking of targeted relevant external and internal audience. So almost all basically. And I remember students telling me that they not only aspire to get into IITs, but their families also work for that. They also aspire that their children should go to these kind of institutions. So external and internal audiences, several kinds of people they get associated with this. A distinguished gentleman, when he passes out of the academy, defense academy, so it becomes a mode of happiness for almost everyone connected to that person, that defense person. And then you see, that is where this the relevance of whole of this definition comes in. And the goal is to generate both short term financial returns and build long term brand and shareholder value. So, ultimately you may specifically decipher shareholder value into stakeholders value, and we will talk about this because I'm saying once again that we are talking of society at large in marketing framework. So, definitely this shareholder value is an important element, and brand value we will talk about at large in due course of time. So, now I will move forward and will take you to the next step with sort of a connection which I have just now built. When I was talking of students aspiring to come to IITs, so you must have heard of this city called Kota. What do you call it? City of, I do not know, city of aspirations. So, people who aspire to become IITians, and definitely other institutions as well, I should not be talking that way. So, several institutions, people who aspire to be something, to fight for a place in good institutions, engineering and medical science and several other institutions, they go to this city. How this city became what it is today, that is what we have been referring to up till now. That is where the message associated with Kota, the names of eminent faculty members who have been contributing there, the big brands which sort of evolved in terms of educational setups there, and so on. Nowadays there is a series on Netflix on this city, and I have not watched it up till now, just a few clips, and it reminds me of a storyboard which it is carrying on, how this city has taken this shape and structure of getting associated with aspirations. But let us focus on the communication which would have got generated around this, and it became a brand sort of, and that is what precisely this definition is referring to, long term brand value. Now, there are several next generations of students who are aspiring to go to this city actually. I do not know up till what stage the city is going to remain to the levels wherein they would be fulfilling the aspirations of students. Probably there would be a time when hundreds of institutions would be there in this country, and there would be lot more number of seats available for those students, but probably would they stop going there? I do not think so, and that is where long term brand value perspective comes in. America, land of dreams. We have all known people have been thronging from all over the world to this country. And I am very happy to share with you that influx of students from all over the world is again getting developed towards India as well. What kind of a word is going from this place to all over the world that India should be a destination for students? India definitely is a big destination for tourists. How have we built up? If you will look into the campaign which Government of India initiated, Atithi Devo Bhava, a mesmerizing campaign, a very beautifully structured campaign in several stages for several years. And if you will just serve that website, you would realize that first they initiated the concept through several kinds of you know beautiful pictorial messages wherein eye of India was written in different forms, wherein different icons representing India, even the tiger, Taj Mahal, Himalayas, those pictures are available. So beautifully structured campaign which messaged the world that India is definitely a beautiful tourist destination. And that campaign, Atithi Devo Bhava, and India being a destination of choice for tourists, was very effective. I will be talking about that when I would be referring to how IMC generates impact and how to measure that. There is statistics associated with such campaigns, and that statistics I do have, although not in very categorical numbers, but some specific graphs I remember I have. So, I will be sharing that with you. In the meanwhile, you can surf about it on Google, and you would realize that it generated a very specific impact, wherein number of tourists rose, and definitely a tourism campaign desires for number of tourists, that is all. So, that is the sole purpose actually. So, that worked very well. I have not written specifically about India tourism campaign because we all are Indians and we are proud of being Indians, and we know that what kind of a tourism influx we have. So, this slide carries several references other than India tourist campaign, but I am talking about it. I want you to surf about it. I want you to look into the beauty of how that message has been flown into the minds of targets. Malaysia, truly Asia definitely worked. And you see, in the end the question is, how have they become what they are? Just again go back to the slide wherein we discussed about the communication staying and then coming to the referral point. Once the tourists they started coming because of that particular campaign which Government of India developed, there were several advertising companies or online, I should not say companies, several advertising people, several creatives, several kinds of people who were associated with that, story writers and narrators and directors and so on. And cumulatively the result was that tourists started coming in, and then they started referring that thing, their experience back to, because that campaign specifically mentions about those tourists who went back highly satisfied, and that again started percolating down to the referral point, and then people started coming in, or the number increased. For example, people, how have they become icons? And you can name anyone, starting from film stars to sports persons. So, how that communication actually flows in. And then let us go to products and services. At this particular moment when you are watching this video, your computer is one of your favorites, which you have purchased through so much of deliberation, but definitely communication has worked for that. Your mobile phone, which is just in front of you, and while watching this video it is distracting you continuously, and you are peeping into that if there is something urgent which is flowing on onto that. Someone is actually trying to track you, what you are doing, and many times you are feeling tempted to stop this video and talk to the person actually or respond to that message. So, definitely that particular brand which was so attractive for you that you actually took out time, you made it a purpose to enter into your life. And then all around you there must be some chair, there must be some shoe nearby which you have purchased with that kind of thing. So that is what it does to you, the marketing communication, the integrated marketing communication. And here it is. This is the section which we would be focusing on for few minutes, wherein how integrated marketing communication is related to marketing at large. So, we saw that in definition, but now let us decipher that with the elements of that definition, with other 3 P's, for example, pricing, place, and primarily the product. Product, when I say, it is again service, all the stakeholders, employee. So you just can take this P and decipher that into the respondent. That particular kind of let us say, for example, if you are looking for an employee, so your job here should be looked at as a product or a service basically, because what you are offering at the end of the day. So, and do not try to associate that because you would be paying for that job, so it has a price, or no, that should not be the understanding. But the limitation of this marketing mix perspective is that it talks with reference to customers. So, there again the several cost elements are there. Cost to company is one of those things basically, and there is a cost associated with an employee as well, that he would be leaving some other option to join this company with an aspiration which should gel according to the expectations which you have built up in his mind. So, that definitely that particular cost is there, but that is beyond the purview of this subject to be talked about. So, I would not be referring to that, but 3 P's largely means there is a product identity, offering, service, price, there is a cost element or price element, and then there is place where it happens, it reaches. So, let us simplify that, and for now let us look at it with the perspective of customers only. And let us go back to a prime mode of advertising, let us say television or newspaper advertising, and then realize how it is related with product, price and place. So, I will come to this, but let us first start talking about the target, how communication is associated with the target, and then we have been referring to this, but now let us create a structure out of it. So, a marketer has a specific target in his mind, whose mind he wants to reach. He imagines, or I should say the creator of that message imagines, looking at the whole thing with the eyes of the marketer, he imagines about that target. Desh Ki Dhadkan, I will be talking about that. I am referring to what? A motorbike company. So, the creator talks about those motorbikes or that organization as Desh Ki Dhadkan. He is targeting whom? He is targeting almost all the stakeholders, but primarily the motorbike purchasers of all the ranges, and that is what is the perspective. That target can be pinpointed customer who would be purchasing a very specific product, or that target can be set of customers largely who would be purchasing several options given by that company. I would not be taking you into the details of segmentation, targeting and positioning, and I would not be mentioning as of now that how segmentation is shifting towards targeting more in in marketing literature as well as practice, because that would change the course of our discussion in due course of time. But just to draw your attention, that start feeling that today companies are more, organizations are more focused upon targeting, specifically reaching to the minds of people they wish to, they have they want to focus on, and then positioning about their products. Look at this beautiful advertisement campaign by Lenskart. Who do you think is the target of that campaign? If no single person is coming to your mind, you are right, because almost everyone is their customer and they want to reach to the minds of all those customers with a sequence of messages, and many messages actually relating the elements of that storyboard with almost everyone. There is a campaign they show about when how that glass looks on your face. Now that is relevant for almost everyone. The storyboard within different advertisements on the same subject may connotate with different kinds of audience, but the objective is very simple, that we have something for everyone, and that is why they are expanding like anything actually. Are you getting my point, how communication is working for Lenskart? If you still are not getting my point, then go to their website, and I do not work for them, so I am not promoting their product here, but go to their website and imagine that do you fit into their scope or no? If yes, that means their purpose is getting solved, that somehow they are targeting you and you are actually getting attracted towards what they are saying. So, this is what now go to Nike's website for example. Do you think that you would not find something for yourself? Just look into their campaigns. Do you think that they have not been talking to you? And then after going to these 2, 3, 4 websites and finding 2, 3 different kinds of products, just start focusing on specific models or specific products you would like to purchase. Do you think that there is a price option for you? Do you think that there is a color option for you? Do you think that they have something precisely for you? If you think that, then the purpose is solved, because finally that is what we have been referring to: targeting, positioning and getting associated with 3 P's. I will elaborate upon this section once again with a slight different view in the next session. Goodbye for now.